Talk about that fight for just a second.
Sure.
Here's my thought on this. You think it's one of the top fights you can make in UFC?
Without a question.
So I think it's a very deserving, like Merab deserves this, no question about it. And what I would say, Danny, is relative to Canelo Berlanga, this is a champion fighting a real #1 contender.
Yeah. He's not even that. He's fighting, in my opinion, an uncrowned champ. Sometimes you can get to that level, Tony Ferguson, Max, before he beat Aldo, where you're like the uncrowned champion. I feel like Merab has shown me. Now, I know Umar is making this conversation difficult because now he is suddenly becoming that guy.
Sure.
But when you get champion against sort of, it's unbeaten, right? We haven't seen Merab.
He has a loss in grappling, and he's got a loss.
Ricky Simone.
Ricky Simone,
which
by the way was the weird war of attrition, and he kind of like passed out at the end.
Allegedly.
Okay, but Sean O'Malley has been upset with the promotion of this fight because he has said explicitly, "Hey, everyone's talking about the Sphere. Everyone's talking about the Sphere. Well, why aren't you talking about Merab and Sean?"
He's right.
He is right, but at the same time, it's like it is so much more relevant a fight than Canelo Berlanga. I don't know. I kind of feel everyone's got a bit of a point.
Okay,
here.
well, I want to ask you this: what fight could or should have replaced it, where you put Sean versus Merab in Vegas at another big time pay-per-view? I mean, what would have been the proper main event on the men's side to pair with it?
If Saudi Arabia is footing the bill, why couldn't it have been Grasso and Shevchenko?
That's what I'm saying. I've been going on a rant about that.
The rematch was a thriller.
Look, if the Sphere is overshadowing whatever fight you want to overshadow, and this O'Malley fight with Merab is big because Sean O'Malley's a star. If you want to go that route and just put Grasso in there, like I think people are still gonna watch just because of the novelty of the Sphere, right? Like people are just gonna be like, what does that look like, regardless of who's fighting? And again, if Saudi Arabia's got the bill, so
the UK fans are like, hey, how come our shows are at like 6 in the morning and then the ones in Abu Dhabi are local time? It's because the Emirates are paying for that.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia pays extra to get that so that whatever trade-off the UFC has to make on pay-per-view, they make up just because it's got guaranteed money. Again, if Saudi Arabia is footing the fucking bill, don't get me wrong, I love the fight, but I don't know if you need it.
Hard complaint, though, because it's such a great fight on top of a card that is so anticipated for so many extra reasons. I do get what Sean is saying because the talk seems Sphere 1, Mexico 2, Saudi Arabia 3, Grasso Shevchenko 4, and then, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, that's...
So I want to ask you this, like how much, like, if Sean goes in there and stunts on Merab, how big of a boost do you think he gets?
Gonna be huge because all the eyes are gonna be on. All my friends are like, "Yo, the Sphere, like, when's that event?" Like, even Sean might have a problem with the promotion, but like once the event comes through, once Fight Week comes through, I feel like that's gonna change. I feel like maybe right now it doesn't feel as big, but especially once we get the fight rolling, and once we get a result, the winner of that is gonna be put in a huge platform.
Can you imagine winning the main event in the Sphere and celebrating, putting your hands up, getting on the cage?
It's gonna be epic.
And then you are 700 feet in the air, blown up on a giant screen. I mean, yeah, there are
O'Malley like creating like epic moments. The basketball thing, like there, he's got a chance to do something. Get that photo that's going to stand the test of time.
All right, let me ask you this about the Sphere related to what we're talking about here. We do feel like we have a system, although not called that, of majors in the UFC, right? MSG, International Fight Week in July, December in Vegas, and then I think for the 4th, it can either be, they usually do a really big one in April, right? I mean, we haven't really established a 4th.
Miami has got some big shows.
But recently. You get the point here. Could the Sphere become an annual?
No.
If those majors are the Super Bowl, could this be like the Olympic or the World Cup of MMA? Where
what do you think, Danny? I don't agree, but...
No, I mean, this just happens to land on a pay-per-view because it's technically 306, right? But I think moving forward, it's probably going to be fight nights.
Dude, also, like...
Fight nights in the Sphere?
Not in the Sphere. Just
Noche
UFC. I don't think it's going to be a yearly Sphere thing.
Dude, the amount of fucking graphics you have to get right to do a Sphere show.
But if Turkey's around, that adds it. And then the other thing is, a big part about the Sphere, and we teased on it by comparing the Canelo fight to this, but a big part of we can play all we want that this is about UFC making Mexico an MMA country first. And that'll continue to take more time, but they're making inroads. It's also to go up against the old guard of these two Mexican holidays in Vegas, which is the UFC's backyard, and saying, okay, Canelo, it just so happens that Canelo has an opponent that we don't deem on the same level as the other ones. But it's their way of saying, all right, let's actually go head to fucking head. Same city, both on pay-per-view. Let's do it. They softly did it last year with it being a fight night card. You remind me of that. Why wouldn't this A, become the 4th major? But B, you could escalate that even more by saying every year it'll be at the Sphere and it's Mexico Independence Day. And the other fighters, if the Sphere comes off well, will probably be fighting to want to be on that because if you're a fan, think about it when Floyd and Manny weren't fighting each other. Fans were boxing. There were hardcore boxing fans, but then there was a whole group of super casuals that only watched when Manny and Floyd fought in the hopes that they'd fight together. And then when they did fight, they still would watch for that Floyd, you know. What if we get to that point where you're like, okay, the only MMA one I watch is that Sphere card every year because it's fucking badass. Why wouldn't you do that? Is the price the turnoff?
I feel like this fear is it seems like a headache, right? It seems like a lot goes into it. And I feel like that's something that you can move around for like a special fight. I feel like they just happen to get that date and maybe they want the T-Mobile. I don't know who got the T-Mobile first. I don't know if it was
Dana claims that Al Heyman jumped and blocked him, knowing that they were doing that. That
they went this fear because they couldn't get T-Mobile.
You could argue that.
Maybe.
I think they also want it to be like the first show.
So I feel like it's
because
like
Eddie Hearn had talked about wanting to do.
And I know there was an NHL draft there, but I mean like a real.
Eddie Hearn wanted to do Katie Taylor Serrano 2 there, and that's when Dana. That was one of the reasons that Dana jumped in. I believe.
I think that. Do I think this is the first and last Sphere show? No, but a regular thing.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if it's going to work yet. That's a big part of it.
That's the other part too. Like, how's it going to look on TV? How's it going to look in person?
Also, I don't think it's tied to a specific date. I feel like if they'll do it every now and then, it's not going to be we can only do it in September.
Right. And also, they're going to have residencies there, which you can get around, but that is going to be somewhat of a limiting factor as well, because you don't have residencies at